Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by the law office of Douglas Viviani. Douglas Viviani has been providing quality legal service for over 26 years. We're a general practice firm and can handle any legal matter you may have for a reasonable fee. If you're involved in a car accident, starting a business, planning your estate, or need a criminal attorney, please call 631-681-1910 or email us at vivianilaw@aol.com for a free consultation. Get the justice you deserve. Contact the law office of Douglas Viviani at vivianilaw@aol.com.
I'm not eating them.
All right, then just sit here.
How long?
All I can say is I remember a little girl, and she wouldn't eat her vegetables, and the parents said, well, you're just going to sit there until you eat them. She saw her friends growing up. People were going to college. She was still sitting there in the same clothes she had on when she was 5 years old.
I'm going to try that with Angelica when she's a little older and doesn't want to eat her vegetables. This is Everything Old is New Again. It's September silliness. We are now going to discuss the best sitcom of the 1980s. I'm Douglas Viviani, joined by
David Cohen.
We just want to talk for a moment about our last week's show, the 1970s, and the conclusion that we came to, which was The Odd Couple over Mary Tyler Moore. We got quite a bit
Very
of email.
controversial, yeah.
Yes, about that. And thank goodness.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank goodness we don't have a telephone hookup so that we can ring off the phone. I can't get to sleep at night. But there were quite a bit of discussion about that.
So we just want to take a second to explain why we chose The Odd Couple over Mary Tyler Moore, and I guess also over All in the Family. I think what it comes down to, and Doug, you said this before we went on the air, is that there were just more memorable lines coming out of The Odd Couple than Mary Tyler Moore. And I think in a 30-minute episode, for me, and I think you agree, Doug, just more laughs per minute.
Exactly.
And that's what edged it out. That's the only reason.
Exactly. And that's why we are here to start the arguments you're going to love to have. Sometimes I say that really fast, but that's what the show is about.
Right,
so don't get venomous with us.
No.
But certainly.
We don't know anything.
Exactly.
We're not experts.
We're
This is
sitting
our
in a bar,
opinion.
so to speak, with you discussing this. I'd like you to, though, continue to communicate with us for sure at AOL.com. That was Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby being clean, being funny, consistently funny, a genius at making family fun with The Cosby Show. Right. But I don't know if it has what we just talked about. Consistent laughs every episode. He laid back. His stuff was great. I'm not so sure that the kids' interactions with each other and so forth were as funny as Bill Cosby.
I agree with that. Totally agree.
Let's take a look at the next runner-up.
You're very fresh.
No, ma'am, that's impossible. Because for the last hour, I've been trying to squeeze your foot into a shoe when I really should have been easing them into the box. So I'd say I'm anything but fresh.
And that's Married with Children, a show that was on Fox Network in its infancy in the 1980s. It, to me, was too crass and sitcoms want to make you laugh, but also, in my world, make you feel good.
Right.
That kind of brought me down. I don't know if
it was really funny. It was very popular, extremely popular.
Yes.
To me, it was like a poor man's All in the Family, and I just didn't like it.
Yeah, it didn't really float up.
I appreciated the fact it was popular, and it did have some funny lines. And for those of you younger audience members, the star Ed Bundy in the show is one of the stars of Married with Children.
Yes, and he's hysterical
not
there.
Married with Modern Family.
Modern Family.
Sorry.
He's hysterical there,
right.
And it just shows that as you mature, you get funnier.
We hope.
Let's listen to the next one.
I was at the unemployment office, and I told them I was very close to getting a job with Vandelay Industries, and I gave them your phone number. So now, when the phone rings, you have to answer Vandelay Industries.
Yellow. What delay industries?
No! Vandelay! Say Vandelay!
Do we have to say?
We don't even have to. I just said it in case people are living under a rock for the last 30 years.
People may think that's a show from the 1990s. It began in 1989, so therefore it's in our 1980s best sitcom discussion because we look at the inception of the show, and that's where it goes into a category. That show, I spent bleary-eyed going through show after show to get different clips, and I just to choose one is ridiculously hard. Almost every show, almost like the Honeymooners, but there are more shows for the Seinfeld. Just iconic lines left and right.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. I personally can't get through a day without thinking of a line from Seinfeld. Just in things I see or encounter every day reminds me of something in the show, or I'll just say a line just comes out subconsciously that it's from that show.
Yes, I challenge us, as a team here to find a show that's going to beat Seinfeld out. We could try with The Simpsons. Let's see what happens.
Mr. Leonard Nimoy.
Actually, you see, the doors on Star Trek were not mechanical. We had a stagehand on either side who would pull the door open when he saw you approach.
Uh-huh.
A solar eclipse. The cosmic ballet goes on.
Does anyone want to switch seats?
Ay, caramba.
I mean, millions of episodes. You have to find the one with Star Trek in it.
You will find that running throughout the show in general, and certainly in all of these sitcoms in particular. Of course, Simpsons have been on. Wow, I should have looked it up, but I think it's something like 18 years
it's
now.
It's the longest running TV show in history.
And it's consistently funny. I don't know if you get the joke on that one, but a allegedly big star, and he's stuck on talking about Star Trek, and a guy sitting in a monorail seat next to him should be enthralled by him, and he just wants to switch seats. I don't know. I just think it's hysterical. That show, I think, is hurt by the fact that it is a cartoon. It shouldn't be, I don't think. It's so smart, so funny. But I don't think a lot of people will watch a cartoon.
It could be. It could be. And maybe it doesn't fit into the classic definition of a sitcom because it's not people. I don't know.
Right. True, but it is we went to the definition on our first show, but it is a situation where there's comedic things that happen and characters that you recognize with certain characteristics. And it's got catchphrases. It's definitely, in my view, a sitcom. Write to us. Let us know what you think at oldnewagain@AOL.com. We have another entry that's, I think, very strong, but I don't know if everyone's going to agree with that it should be as strong as Seinfeld. Let's try and listen to a little bit of this.
Hey, I'm a part of this family, too.
Yeah, when your hamper's full or your car needs working on.
I've been a member of this family longer than you have.
Well, that's something to be proud of.
You know, I saw a whole thing about this on Oprah, and that's just what we are, too. We're just like that. We are a dysfunctional family.
Oh, God, help me. I'm sorry.
First of all, that's Roseanne.
Yeah, I guess we have to mention that.
How could you? What are you
that's
talking about?
First and last thing we'll agree about on this particular show, because Dave is a big fan and I'm not. I know that sitcoms are about arguments, and I know sitcoms are about constructing situations where people are going to have different points of view, and we laugh from that. To me, that show is so dark, even in its comedy.
That was such a bad clip. There were so many great lines from that show. And what was that?
Oh, God, could I find a great line?
You found the only one that wasn't funny and sounded
voice,
horrible?
The voice. The show just bothers me. However, I'm not the only person on the planet, and I recognize that it was popular.
I'm glad you recognize that. It's a big step for you.
I'm not even the only person in this studio.
Thank you.
But to me, I don't know. I don't like all the bickering. Maybe it's just, I don't know. I can't take the bickering without end. And to me, when I've seen this show, it's bickering without end.
How many episodes have you watched?
One. No, I'm kidding.
It wouldn't surprise me.
I have a hard time sitting through them. I've tried about 7 of them, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
And
all right.
It just doesn't do it for me.
All right. You're weird. We've determined that now.
I don't know how to defend myself about that, because that's true. That's the genesis of this show. We have a bunch more, 4 more to show and listen to after the commercials, but maybe we'll give a little bit of an insight. Why not take the next one right now?
Making your way in the world today takes everything you've got.
Everybody remember that one? That is from Cheers. I have some quotes we'll listen to on the other side of the commercial on that. But Cheers to me is a strong candidate. It has funny lines. It has quite a number of characters.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Fraser Crane. right? This character was on that show, I don't know, something like, 9 years?
Probably.
And then he did his own sitcom.
Many years as his own sitcom.
In the 90s, right?
Winning 30 Emmy Awards itself, The Frasier Show.
Wow. Wow. And that Frasier Show will be in our show when we talk about the best sitcom of 1990.
Right.
So think about that. I mean, it extends itself on what was a side character.
And the great thing about Cheers, too, you mentioned about characters leaving, and sometimes that can cause the show to go downhill. Cheers had a lot of characters leave, and new characters replace them, and they were just as funny, if not funnier. So there was something to that to keep the longevity going.
Yeah, almost different, or maybe they learned a lesson subconsciously from MASH, where MASH lost characters and didn't really replace them with funny characters. They replaced them with quality characters, but more serious. Unless that was their intention, I don't know. But certainly Cheers' intention was to go with an ensemble, and I would say that the 1980s was the decade of an ensemble, and certainly Cheers went along those lines. When it lost characters, it replaced the bartender, the older gentleman that passed away, replaced it with Woody Harrelson, and it just goes on and on. We'll hear more about this on the other side of the commercials.
Takes everything you've got.
This portion of Everything Old is New Again is sponsored by ResumeDrInc.com. When you're seeking to change your career, apply for a promotion, or are trying to find a job, your resume is the first thing that's seen that represents you to a potential employer. Make sure your resume makes a clear, concise, and professional impression of who you are so you can get that job interview. Send your current resume to ResumeDrInc at AOL.com for a free online review. You'll receive a timely reply with a reasonable quote to properly prepare your resume. Let them make sure you have a resume that will get you noticed. Send your resume or questions to ResumeDrInc at AOL.com. That's ResumeDrInc at AOL.com.
Ma, I'm going to ask you a question, and however you answer, I'll believe you. Did you tell John Noretti to go away the night of my senior prom because you didn't like the way he was dressed?
Well,
Liar!
I can explain. Just don't lock me away in another ill-equipped nursing home.
I promise nothing.
Golden Girls.
That's Golden Girls. I have to say, I have to be honest, when it came out, I was a young man, younger man, and I just couldn't relate to it. But when I watch it now, it was one of my wife's favorites. When I watch it now, it's so smartly written and so funny, really. These four women and the things they go through and the way they interact with each other. It really is a funny show.
And that's why it made our final 8 list. It had some of the greatest female comedic talents ever. I mean, Bea Arthur, Betty White, who's still around kicking and being funny, Estelle Getty, Rue McClanahan. So the talent was great. The writing was great. It was a show about older women. I mean, really? I mean, it's amazing that it was so successful, and it was great to see. It was a
Think
funny
about
show.
the producers' meetings, like when they presented that show.
Really,
we have a great show. Here's it going to be about ladies in their 60s, 70s, and 80s
jacking up together and.
But I have to say, I have to admit that I was wrong as a young man. But maybe to give myself a little credit, the issues were not issues that I was interested in then. But if you watch it now,
well, now that you're an old woman,
exactly,
I think you can relate to it a lot more, right?
You've given my secret away. Yes, it is a fun show. I have to be honest with you. The opportunity I have now as a host of this wonderful program is that I get to visit with conventions, and we bring our microphone and we will have a lot of fun at the upcoming Doctor Who convention, November 9th, actually 7th through the 9th at the Clarion Hotel in Ronkonkoma, and I'm going to be there. Dave's going to be there. If you would like to come and meet us and have some fun, we'll be there all 3 days, one or two of us during that time period. And come on, we have a booth.
Stop by and say hello.
Absolutely. Right? Maybe we'll interview you and have you come on the show. I just think that's a lot of fun to be able to bring our show out into Long Island and meet everybody. They've got 1,100 people attending.
It's amazing. Doctor Who is really big.
Right.
Really
and obviously
big.
We're going to do a couple shows on that down the line. But back to this show. Let's hear a little more from this contender.
Boy, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Oh, these pretzels are making me thirsty.
These pretzels are making me thirsty.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not that there's anything wrong with it.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Not at all.
It could go. We could just do an hour of just clips, which they've done. They've done just hour shows of clips from old shows.
Absolutely.
Unbelievable.
And I would challenge you not to know. You don't have to explain those clips. I challenge you, if you were around and let's say 15 years or older in the 90s or late 80s, you will know those clips and tons more from this show.
Absolutely. How did it? The odd thing about Seinfeld, and I'll compare it a little bit to The Odd Couple. It's very Northeast New York centric, right? Yet it reached to so many people across the country. It didn't matter what town you're in, Oklahoma, California, anywhere in the country. Most people knew of Seinfeld and would watch it. The appeal was that broad.
After the first couple of seasons, if you remember,
yes.
89, there was nobody watching it. They only had whatever it was, 10 episodes.
Those were the days when they would allow a show time to develop because
Yes.
they knew it was a good show. They knew it had legs. Just like Cheers was almost canceled after the first year.
Right.
Seinfeld also was not a rating success in the beginning.
And talking about the pitch to producers for that show, we were talking about Golden Girls pitch. The pitch for this was presented on their show later on. It's a show about nothing.
Right.
Which kind of is what we do in a way.
We're
not
really about nothing.
We have substance, but I'm just saying we're talking about fun topics. They talked about fun minutia and blew it up into an episode, and that basically was Jerry Seinfeld's comedy act,
right? And Larry David.
I'm sorry?
And Larry
David.
David.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And they really did it to perfection. And speaking of Larry David, I think you'll be happy to hear that later on, I think it's the 90s, Curb Your Enthusiasm is in the
it's one of the contenders.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll have some fun with that. So feel free to listen to us now or on the podcast at everythingoldisnewagain.biz. Let's hear if there's anyone that can challenge Seinfeld for the 1980s best sitcom. We've talked about it before, but let's hear what it says.
Here, Norm. Thank you. Matter of fact, I joined the health club today.
Oh, good for you. Nice facilities.
Excellent snack bar. How's life treating you, Norm? He caught me in bed with his wife. How's life treating you, Norm? I just ran over its dog. How you doing, Norm? Cut the small talk and give me a beer.
It's a dog-eat-dog world, and I'm wearing Milk-Bone underwear.
Exactly.
That was one of my favorites.
I mean, it must have been so much fun just to write for that character. That's that one line that kind of started the show off, if you will, or at least his presentation in every one of those shows.
Right.
The shows were about more than that, but certainly that just shows you how smart and fun that show was.
It was. And the other appeal of Cheers is that, I don't know about you, but like you'd put it on and you were like a bar patron with them. Those people were people that, you could see yourself hanging out with.
Yeah, the only thing is, do you aspire to go to a bar every night or every 3 nights, whatever it might be a week, and hang out? That's what they did. But
well, that's true. But they came into your living room.
Yes.
They were hanging out with me. That's how I saw it. And it was just a welcome sight every night, and especially in reruns.
Yes.
When no matter what kind of lousy day you had, I always got cheered up.
It's funny too. Like, you really think about that show. It harkens back in some ways to I'm going to say like the Honeymooners, in that it had basically one venue, one scene. Almost everything.
Yeah,
not
they
everything,
didn't really
but almost
stray too
everything.
much.
Right? Yeah, it took place in that bar.
In the bar.
That was it. So like that is just, it generates the thought process of these writers to just have these characters interact, forget that they're going to a ball game or there's some silly genie coming out of a bottle or, whatever these other sitcoms have. This was about the people.
And to that point, we were talking about this earlier, that certain characters left the show for whatever reason. And you give credit to the actors who were replacing them, like Kirstie Alley coming in to replace Diane. I'm using the character name, but you know what I'm talking about. And so it wasn't just the actor coming in and doing a great job. I mean, think about it. The writers suddenly it was a whole new character that they had to insert into this sort of tightly knit family. And they made it work. You didn't lose interest. In fact, you laughed even harder at some of these new characters.
Because you liked these characters. They made them likable in some way. Or at least you could, point to the person that when you're going to a bar, that's that person. There's that Norm, so to speak. But you kind of like them or related to them. Unlike Roseanne. who you just don't like. I have to say this. Get Dave Mann.
I don't know.
You just don't like those
You don't
characters.
think a lot of people related to Roseanne and to
maybe
John
to say there's
Goodman's
that
character?
person in the that I don't like, my neighbor that doesn't cut the grass or whatever it might be. I don't. Again, that's just my silly prejudice against that show.
I think it's male centric, Doug.
Interesting. No, I didn't like John Goodman either, but I'll leave it be. Let's
All
talk
right,
about a
fair
male
enough.
that I did like, a show that was fun.
Pretend that we're going to run a little business.
Business?
Now, what should we sell?
Turtles.
Turtles. Turtle market's been depressed since '81. Now, who wants to be a store manager? Oh, I see Andrew Keaton has his hand up. We need an advertising campaign. Rhonda, you ever do any modeling?
Yes, and I have a dog.
Excuse me, but I work here.
Fabulous. Get some paints, will you?
That's Alex Keaton from Family Ties, Michael J. Fox.
Right.
And just to give you a little background on that particular clip, he's teaching preschoolers about business, and that character was a breakout character, harkening back to some of the old other decades of really the 1970s, as opposed to an ensemble. That show took on a nice turn with this character, and of course he went on to do bigger and better things, if you want to say that, with Back to the Future. But I can't say better really, because this show and that character was iconic.
Yeah, and the show wasn't really supposed to be about him. It started out being more about the parents and how they were hippies and now adjusting to the new world. But, after a couple episodes, it was obvious that Michael J. Fox was stealing the show, and ultimately the show did become mostly about him.
And fun. I mean, he did it in a fun way.
Yeah.
That clip, I had to cut things up, but it was really funny and fun the way he's teaching these kids about, about business from his point of view, and really a way that they dealt with politics, if you will, but in a fun way. There was no pointing fingers and angry shouting and whatever. It was just a nice, fun discussion.
Got a bit over sentimental for me at times, but still a really solid show. Okay, so
Where are we?
Where are we?
Seinfeld, Cheers. I think that's it. Where do we go?
Not even a mention of The Simpsons or the.
All right,
Roseanne.
Simpsons, I would say, but again, I think because of the lack of listenership, watching viewers, if you will, I think we have a winner. We will see you next week. Well, listen to us. On Everything Old is New Again, we will discuss the best show of the 2000s as our September silliness continues.